D&D nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was saying, I'm a huge D&D nerd, and I will say D&D just really got me through COVID. I mean, I was lucky. I was very, very busy voiceover wise for COVID during COVID because, I have a home studio. But when couldn't go out and do things, I really, yep, I really dove into D&D and just again, as a performer, to be able to just create characters, and I love creating these elaborate backstories for my characters. And so I don't stream anymore. I don't have the time for it, but I do still have, my two home games, which I love, which we're still playing remotely because we actually, because of that, we're able to, you know, get some friends who are not in the LA area to be in the games. So yeah, that's kind of my happy place, sit down for a couple hours and just dive into fantasy.
I have a few things to go off of that. So first off, I know that you grew up with, Star Wars or like, Doctor Who and stuff like that. Fantasy, I sorta got in. I don't know. It wasn't really my thing when I was a kid because I was kind of into like, um, what was it? Oh, the comedy. Like I loved sci-fi, but I wasn't really into like, Harry Potter or stuff like that. Like, that fantasy. I know that Lord of the Rings, depending on what media you're watching, I haven't read the books, but I've seen the movies and um, I know that they're somewhat long, but they're actually really, really good.
I
Like the
love
acting
so
is, yeah.
Yeah, so I was again, I'm a little bit older than you, so I grew up
Mhm.
reading The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, the Narnia
Yeah,
collection, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe Narnia collection, his
yeah,
Dark
yeah, yeah.
Materials, so for me, I think I'm more because there wasn't as much fantasy. I'm trying to think what movies or television shows, because obviously the production value is a lot higher with fantasy. But I read fantasy, absolutely read fantasy. And then yeah, when I remember when the Lord of the Rings movies came out, I was just geeking out hard because I loved those books so much. And no offense, I don't mind that they're long because again, I grew up reading them and I feel like, okay, people these days have very short attention spans, but it's like I could sit there and watch 6 hours of Middle Earth, like that is not a problem for me. So and then when they and then Game of Thrones came out, and minus the last episode or last season, read those books. And I also am a huge fan of The Witcher. I read all of those books and absolutely adored them because the first book, again, they were originally short stories, but he started in 1985 and has some of the best, most badass female characters I have seen in fantasy. Because you look at Lord of the Rings, there's really no female characters in them, and I love Tolkien to death, but he was writing from a middle-aged British white guy. But the Witcher books, I was just so impressed with the female representation in those, and especially that they started in the 80s. And then I love the TV show The Witcher. They've deviated a lot from the books, and it's kind of like Harry Potter. I take the books as a entity, and I take the movies as an entity, and I try not to be that person that compares, because I understand as a storyteller you have to adapt for the medium in which you are. And so yeah, 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 yeah. I just
Yeah.
fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, that's my game. And action. Anything action. I grew up watching Jackie Chan movies and anything from Golden Harvest. My brother and I used to like get a catalog and order the DVDs and have them shipped over because you couldn't find them in the US.
Mm. For me, it was comedy, adventure, action, and
Uh,
yeah, I didn't really get into horror. I was never really like the
I
horror type
am
of
not,
person.
I
Yeah.
cannot stand horror. I hate it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it's like when I was a kid, I was watching like what was it? Goosebumps? Yeah,
I
when
remember
back when
Goosebumps. Goosebumps was cute.
yeah, and Are You Afraid of the Dark
Are
and
You Afraid of
stuff
the
like
Dark?
that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it kind of scared me as a kid, but now as I grow up and I'm older, like I know that I mean, it has its they had their moments. I know that, they kind of can be a little cheesy at times, but it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not really that frightening anymore.
Right.
I guess
Exactly.
my tastes have kind of expanded and broadened over the years. I don't know, maybe it's
Yeah,
me.
I will
Yeah.
say mine have as well. Like I said, I got into comic books late.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up, again, and I'm a Gen Xer, so like my first video game was on an Atari system. And then
Oh yeah.
I remember playing the
Way
original
back in the
Mario,
day.
yeah, way
Yeah,
back in the
yeah,
day. And I will
yeah.
say those those Atari games and like original Nintendo games are still some of the hardest games out there. If anyone's played Pit Jumper, that is hard. And the original Mario, it's like there's no save spots. You die, you go back to the beginning. And it's like I remember
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah. This is
rage
back when
quitting
they didn't
Mario.
have save spots. Yeah. But now
Yep.
it's like you could just play it on your PC or whatever they have, like these
Yeah.
emulator stuff, or you could just play it on like the Nintendo Switch, and you just play
Yeah,
the
they have
classic games and you can save.
exactly.
Which I feel like, okay, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I kind of like games where you can just be like, okay, if the game is gonna be hard, like I prefer to go through it in one go without having to save, because it kind of like, if you save a game after you die, like if you have the option to save, like
Yeah.
get a game over screen, start back from the beginning. I don't know. I kind of like it when you have to like, if you have to suffer, and then have to go through the rage quitting, But
Yeah.
now it just makes it even easier, and I think that kind of takes away the experience.
If you like that type of stuff, play Pathologic 2. My friend adores that game. She
Mm.
loves horror and she loves hard games. I got like 2 hours into the game and I was like, this is so stressful. I can't do this. And like quit and
Yeah,
played Stray because I was like, I need to play a funny, fluffy kitty now because the game is
yeah.
because you have to keep them alive and breathing and eat. I was just like, nope. And it's a horror game. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done. This is not my thing. I'm gonna go play, Horizon Zero Dawn or Skyrim or something.
I'm kind of the generation that just likes watching, like, because for a lot of us that grew up in, like, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, of course you have like Disney, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon and those shows. And then for video games, because you had the Zelda,
Oh
Mario,
yeah.
Sonic, or
Yep.
just, games like that in Smash.
Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong was my
Yo,
jam. Like
Donkey
when
Kong,
Donkey Kong came
yes,
out for
Donkey
the
Kong Country,
64,
yeah.
I was a
Yeah,
big fan.
64. Yeah. And now there's still, I know that the new one that just came out, like, what's it, the Freeze game for like Nintendo? I don't know. I don't remember. I think it was like Switch or something. But yeah, the new one is actually really good.
Okay.
I would love for them to make a new Donkey Kong game. But yo, speaking of new video games though, the new Persona that is coming out, like,
Yeah.
dude, the cast, chef's kiss,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
really, and I have not played Persona, and I'm just like, okay, you know what? Now I might want to give this a shot,
Yeah.
There's like a lot of great video games coming out now.
I am eagerly awaiting Starfield.
Starfield. I
It's
know
gonna
that's like another
be,
one
no
that
pun
is, yeah,
intended. Well, pun intended. It is going to be a game changer. It is supposed to be the most expansive video game ever made.
yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to it.
And speaking of D&D, of course, I gotta shout out Critical Role. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
everybody who's,
they
yeah,
made it cool again.
yeah. And have you seen the new D&D movie, by the way?
I
I've
have.
been meaning to
I
watch
was
it. Yeah.
actually they here in LA, they did a screening at Paramount for I don't know, D&D streaming celebrities. I don't know how to explain it, but it was basically, it was kind of like a press event but for like all the D&D Twitch streamers and geek personalities. So I was able to go to that and I adored it. I remember when I first read the pitch for it, and I was like, Chris Pine. I was like, what? But it was so fun, because at the end of the day, D&D is fun and silly. And I thought they perfectly married like the fun elements with like really great action sequences. And like, you can enjoy it. If you know nothing about D&D, you can watch it and just enjoy it as a fun fantasy movie. But if you do know D&D, you get those Easter eggs and the little nuances. And again, I was very skeptical, but I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, and I know that you mentioned COVID before. I know that you've been, um, because with all of us, like I know that remote recording, I've said this a million times already, but is kind of paved the way. And I know that after TV and film and everything just kind of slowed down once. the world turned upside down. VO has kind of been like it
It
just
exploded.
really grew. It
Uh,
just really exploded, man. It really did.
COVID, the those
And
were my
everyone's
best.
getting really busier. Yeah.
I mean, work wise, those were some of my best years. I mean, this
Yeah, I think a lot of yeah, like
because
I've
when
seen
I
yeah.
already, yeah, I already had a home studio because I've already done
Yeah.
have a lot of remote clients. And, that was a struggle for, a lot of actors who here in LA who've only been in studio for work had to kind of scramble to put together home studios.
I'm the
Thankfully, I already
opposite.
had that, which was great, but it blew up. But it also means that the amount of people who do it has exploded because now, well, I think things are shifting back, but for a while, it didn't matter where you were. If you had a decent setup,
Yeah.
you could work. I think, especially with video games and dubbing, things are starting to slowly shift back to where they really do want you in studio because trying to
Mhm.
get 100 different studios to sound the same is a nightmare for
Mhm.
engineers and mixers. It's like
You
commercials doesn't matter. It's just you. But but you are having to, like, as the engineer, make all of these different microphones and spaces and everything. You have to make it all sound uniform. And so that's something that really can't be done unless all the actors are in the same studio.
like
So
God
we'll see.
Godspeed to the engineers, man. They
I
really worked their butts off
they
during the
really
pandemic.
do. They really do.
Yeah. Um, and I know that with remote, because I'm kind of the opposite. I've always been recording from home.
Yeah.
I've just booked some really big, stuff that of course, I can't really say or talk about, but once they're actually out, like, I'll get
Yeah.
to actually talk about it. Yeah, isn't that fine when you get to record something and then you can't talk about it for a while, and then it's like, so what have you been up to? I've been doing something. Yeah. But
That's all. It's like NDA.
exactly, NDA, but with COVID, oh man, like, okay, story time. When I had it, like, I'm pretty sure most of us have had it at some point or another, but
I
with
have not. I
good,
have been
that's good.
spared.
Yeah, yes, that's good. That's a good thing. It's like, you know, I should really start like, who here has not have had COVID? And I'm
It's
like, you
such
know
a
what?
small number.
Congratulations. Yeah, it's a smaller number, but I thought I would be one of them, but nope. Last August,
Yep.
it was a nightmare. Thankfully, mine was pretty childish, but it still sucked. So, yeah, my whole family got it. I think most of the time, I think I was just kind of like, okay, I know I should be resting since I got the virus, but it's like, should I though? Because it's like because it's like you want to rest because you're sick, but at the same time, it's like you got stuff to do.
Work
So
never
it could
ends.
be really it could be really tricky. Exactly. And it's somebody like me who is like kind of like, okay, I know I want to sit back and relax, but or play a video game, but it's like, oh, wait a minute, is there an audition that is due? It's kind of like with me because
That's
my
why
brain
I
is kind of
can't.
wired like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's why
I
people are like,
just
"Oh, what games are you playing?" And I was like, I honestly do not have time because I'm the person that loves open world stuff, like, your Skyrims, your Horizon Zero Dawns. So it's like I
yeah,
can't sit down and play for an hour. Like I need at least like a good 4 or 5 hour chunk. And I was like, I just don't have the time to do that. So it's
yeah,
like I'll get on YouTube and like watch the cinematics and cut scenes and walk through videos just to keep up to
just to
date
study.
what's
Yeah,
going on. But I wish I had more time to
yeah.
play. But it's like, it's like I guess it's a happy problem. It's like you're so busy you don't, but then it's also like, it'd be nice to just sit
Man,
down.
I think I kind of want to play it for fun, but it's like you can't really. I mean, you can play it for fun, but at the same time, it's like if you're doing Twitch streaming or if you're
Oh, that's a
YouTube
whole
like
other
live stream,
thing. Yeah,
yeah,
like
um,
I had some people ask me,
which also picked
why
up
don't you
during the pandemic.
it
Yeah,
did, and now it's dying off a little bit. But people were like, "Oh, why don't you get into
is
Twitch?
it?
Play the games you want." It's definitely because Twitch has made it so much harder to
Oh,
monetize and make
mm.
money off of it.
And
It's like
also YouTube. Don't even get me
and YouTube,
started with YouTube.
exactly. So that's why I say it's slowed down because it's just so much harder. Like the people who were making big money on it, they changed the rules and how you could monetize and all of that. And so but I have friends who are Twitch streamers and who do really well, but it's like you have to have a consistent schedule. You have to stream a certain number of hours a day. And
And
I really
engage and
respect my
be
friends. Yeah,
entertaining.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
like
mind
that.
being engaged in entertaining stuff, but like I can't commit to like and I guess 4 hours is kind of like the happy zone of how long people should
Yeah,
on Twitch. It's like I could
exactly.
get to 5 days a week, 4 hours of streaming, which is kind of what you need to do if you really want to build an audience and get up to partner. So
Yeah. And it's like if I'm watching something or if I'm playing something, I'm kind of studying it. Like
yeah,
it's really good to watch media, just to study like, okay, who's the showrunners, like what network is it? So just studying the many different clients and buyers that, you I mean, it's really good to study like, the who's who in the business. That's what
yeah,
I do like literally every day, all the time.
yeah.
And that's what I do. And the amount of people that I've had on the podcast is, like I said, the amount of studying, the amount of research that goes into it. And I like to have on guests that have a unique, experience in the industry. Like whether it's for like, with NAVA or with AI who have like a ton of insight on knowledge on that stuff, panels. So
Yeah,
it's pretty much like it's a podcast that is like where, we could just sit down, talk off the cuff because that usually makes like the best content that I feel like. Because if I do it like in a scripted like, okay, here's some list of questions I gotta ask. No, no, no. Like just like what we were doing, we were just talking about Star Wars. We're just talking about, the business. So we could just pretty much discuss anything. Like it's pretty much all bets are off, pretty much.
it is.
Um,
It really is.
but for Comic Con, like going back to that real quick, because I know that um and I'm kind of sad that I won't be able to go because like they sell out and it's also really expensive, which is yeah.
Well,
But
I
at
have a
the
pro
same time,
badge. Yeah, I have a pro badge, so I don't pay
so
for
I mean
it.
so there's that, there's the benefits. But
Yeah,
yeah, with the
but yeah.
Comic Cons and stuff like that, for conventions, like I think I've kind of asked this one from time to time, but what do you really enjoy the most out of doing these events?
Oh, yeah. Um, yeah. So this is only my second year hosting a panel. So when I first went to Comic
Nice.
Con, it was when I was lucky to get a badge before I
Hmm.
qualified for professional badges. And I have to say, for me, I love the floor and I love Artist Alley. I like
No, right?
my entire house is literally artwork from Artist Alley.
I think
And
the artist alleys are kind of like my favorite.
they are. And I
On
have to
top of the
say,
cosplays, like people dedicate so much
oh
time.
no, I have one of my best friends who is my co-host on the rollout is one of the top cosplayers in the country. And I have so much respect for her because she makes all of her costumes. I mean, some of this stuff is elaborate. And so yeah,
So much, yeah, it's a huge commitment, and it's so much time that puts into it. But man, like,
yeah. But I just
man, it's worth
I
it.
love Artist Alley because I love support again, I love supporting artists, be it entertainers, be it
Exactly.
and so I have artists that, there's certain artists who only go to conventions. So I've got some pieces. It's like you can't buy their stuff online. And so I really hope that that stays. I will say last year I was a little disappointed with SDCC because I love WonderCon. WonderCon's like Comic-Con
I just
baby.
went to WonderCon
Yeah.
this year.
So
Yeah.
I love the Artist Alley this past year at WonderCon was or last year was amazing. And I thought the Artist Alley at San Diego was not nearly as good. And so that was a little disappointing to me because like as expensive as Comic-Con has gotten, especially for people on the floor, like to rent a booth, to pay for that booth area is not cheap. And so I really hope they continue to support the Artist Alley and the small press too, your independent authors. Marvel can afford to buy out, a huge chunk of space on the floor.
It's
But and then
Marvel.
I love like people that sell the collectibles. Like that's where I found some of like the most unique like TARDISes and action figures. I'm like, I literally am that person that will just spend half a day on the floor and just go up and down and up and down just to see everything. I used to be like a panel junkie. I used to try to go to all the panels. But nowadays I'm just like, I hate waiting in lines, so I will not wait in a line for a panel.
Yeah.
I got into Hall H once by accident. Like I kind of got in a weird back way that I didn't mean to do. I was looking for the bathroom and then found myself in Hall H and it was for the Doctor Who panel. And I was like, well, I'm staying.
Uh,
Uh,
Doctor Who.
but yeah, that's my big thing with conventions is is I love doing the floor. And then if I have friends who are on other panels, I love to go support them, like the Cartoon Voices panels, which have been at Comic-Con for decades. It's always fun to see my friends up on stage. And
Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had
Oh, that was
might
sorry,
say
that was
cut
all
out.
I had.
Yeah, like literally the panels, like the cartoon voices, and the Marvels, everything that you get in between. Like, I know that the panels are really cool and all, but I just don't want to wait in line. That's why, like,
Yeah.
it
I mean,
used
God
now
bless
it's
those
kind of, yeah.
people who sit on the sidewalk, but I was like, that is not me.
That is no, no,
And then,
like,
it's always fun to see all the offsites, like last year FX had a really great offsite on the green, and I got to go through, and like I'm a big fan of What We Do in the Shadows, and they had like a little, Nadia's nightclub section. And so, and you get to
it's
see
totally
friends
cool.
that you only see there. I have two girlfriends who one flies in from New York and one flies in from Vegas, and like the only time we see each other is at Comic-Con. And it's so,
I
it's
know,
really nice.
yeah.
But then I definitely get home and I'm like, I need a vacation from the past 5 days, because it is stressful being around that many people. And
Oh,
yeah,
totally. That's why, like, I can't really do like Anime Expo like for the entire
I
weekend
I did
because,
Anime
yeah,
Expo once and I will never go back. And for me
yeah,
personally, I'm not a big fan of crowds, which I know sounds weird, but Comic-Con is manageable. The one year I went to Anime Expo, I swear they were violating fire code regulations because the floor was so packed with people, you could barely move. And I finally had to tap out and go up. Luckily, they had a professional room, for the people with pro badges to go hang out. So I went up there and I was like, okay, and we're done, but LA Comic Con, I love, WonderCon, I love. Um,
yeah.
haven't
Because at
done
least
any
you,
East Coast cons yet, but yeah,
me neither. I can really do like the West Coast ones because,
yeah,
yeah, traveling and stuff. But I
yeah, it
was
gets
gonna say,
fun.
at least with LA Comic Con and WonderCon, you can actually move and walk around.
Yeah,
Like you
exactly.
get the space and
Yeah,
everything. And plus, I
exactly.
just really like the convention centers. I don't know, I just kind of like the atmosphere, and you kind of have to get away from the stress of working from home and your day-to-day life. So it's like escapism. You get to
Right.
escape from reality. Excuse me. Um, Let me see. Is there anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to, I guess, the business or just everything moving forward? Or
Um, No, I mean, I think we covered a good bunch of stuff. I mean, if anyone wants to keep up with what I'm doing, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I try to, be as responsive as I can when I'm not being flooded by bots. If you're interested in getting into the industry, check out skillshub.life. Jennifer Hale founded it.
yes,
It's an online resource for training. I will say one of the good things with COVID is a lot of the coaches who teach here in LA have gone online. So check out Skills Hub. I occasionally teach through there. I teach my military callouts class through them. But yeah, there's
nice.
a lot of great resources out there. And and just be kind to each other. And it's like, follow NAVA on social media and tweet support about AI and voice actors trying to protect themselves from AI. Don't be a troll. Those just the basic things, be nice. Like I love the geek community, but it can be really nasty sometimes. And just don't be one of those people, be the supportive, like again, like the doctor said, space for all. Like we all have our fandoms, and there should be no gatekeeping in fandom. There absolutely no gatekeeping. And so just, enjoy your fandom and let other people enjoy theirs and just support each other. That's what I have to say.
Honestly, very well said.
Very good.
Um, I also wanted to mention, like, for the what does it say? Handbook for the recently
Oh
to.
yes. Come on. I know you're youngin, but this is from Beetlejuice, the original
Oh
Beetlejuice.
yes.
They're making a sequel to. The handbook for the recently deceased is the book that they get when they die. So I love. I'm so excited they're making a sequel because Beetlejuice is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds familiar. It is from Beetlejuice. I'm like,
It's from
look at
Beetlejuice.
me. Okay, me, I'm just gonna go on a little bit of like my neurodivergent fixation rants, whatever you call it, but I am a sucker for 80s, 90s that, sort of era where we were getting like, because I know that we're still getting a lot of great, content today, but I think for like the 80s and 90s, because like, especially when you consider like, it was a time where like, the media, like the industry was really finding new like filmmakers and performers, and they were
Yeah.
experimenting with a lot of new groundbreaking technology.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Because I
where
know,
we
yeah,
got George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, because
yeah, Tim
we
Burton,
had
yeah,
E.T., we had Edward Scissorhands, we had Beetlejuice, we had the original Michael Keaton Batman,
Jurassic
um,
Park,
Jurassic
man.
Park, the original Jurassic. I've never seen any of the Chris Pratt Jurassic Parks. The original Jurassic Park is what did it
Okay.
for me. I just, oh, so good. Yeah, and that's just absolutely, even Jaws, like it's not my favorite movie, but it was very much a groundbreaking movie for the industry. So yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff was done. We had the Never Ending Story, Princess Bride. I mean,
My
and
God,
every time I
never
hear about
end.
people wanting to do remakes, I'm like, don't do it. You're gonna
No, no,
ruin
no,
my
no, no, no.
childhood.
Okay,
Don't do it.
no. Okay. The
So,
Never-Ending Story. I would not want a remake of Never-Ending Story, and
can't do it. You can't do
mm,
it. And the Princess Bride.
no.
Again, it's like there's some movies that are just so iconic and
Lightning in
precious.
a bottle, you just can't. You just can't
You can't do it. You
even come
can't. So
close. Yeah,
that's my other
that's how I
thing
feel.
is
Yeah,
leave
just
my
like
childhood alone. We don't need
I
more remakes. Get original content, find original authors and screenwriters. Let's tell new stories. Let's not
yeah.
rehash old ones.
I was just rewatching Who Framed Roger Rabbit like not too
Oh
long ago the other
man,
night. Yeah, and
that's
it's
a
like
classic.
you really cannot like with what they
Yeah,
did back in the day, you really just can't replicate the magic that was in the
yeah.
original. They tried to make a sequel, but it didn't really pan out, but we don't really need a sequel to it. Like
Well,
Roger
they,
Rabbit was just a masterpiece
yeah,
that deserves, to be put on like a ceiling of like, I don't know,
yeah.
what is it, the National Film Registry? Yeah,
Yeah,
for
and
like
that's how I
outstanding
feel.
stuff.
That's how I feel about The Matrix and like Bill and Ted's
Yeah.
Excellent Adventure. Like I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure so much I wore out
Oh
the
my
VHS
God,
tape.
yes.
They've made the second one was good too. They made the third one, a couple years ago, and it was like it was good, but it wasn't the same. And then the same with The Matrix. It's like that first Matrix movie. I saw that in theaters and I literally sat in
Yeah.
the theater for like 30 minutes afterwards and was like, what did I just see? This blew my mind. And then they started making sequels and I was like, just stop. Just
Yeah.
stop.
It's how I feel with the Never-Ending Story, which I'm so happy that somebody else. Oh my gosh, I have not met too many people that. I mean, okay, I take it back. Like, you don't really see Never-Ending Story. It is such an under-discussed film, and then of course they made the sequels. There's
Which
two and
were,
three.
they were,
I mean, three existed, but
it existed. It was, no,
it had,
the original.
yeah. I mean, the only memorable thing about it was Jack Black, but other than that,
I totally agree. Yeah.
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 But yeah, it existed. That's all I can say. Um, but no, I'm just somebody who's into like the whole 80s, 90s and stuff. I mean, I've just been binge watching like whenever I have any free time because like that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with like watching media or content for work. I'm working on like, this video essay where I'm just talking about the 90s decade and why it was such a revolutionary time for like artists and creatives. Like I'm just talking like we're talking Simpsons, we're talking like Batman, and pretty much a lot of the 90s stuff that we were watching, as kid. Like another really under discussed show that I've come to really love is Boy Meets World. I don't know if you've
My
watched.
gosh, I watched that when
Yeah.
it was on. Well, I have to say, my favorite show of all time, I mean, maybe there's new favorite shows, is The X-Files. The
Mm,
X-Files transformed the industry, in my opinion.
yeah.
It opened the floodgates for a lot of the storytelling that we have now. And I still think, again, up to before David Duchovny left. After he left, it's a shit show.
Yeah.
But those like 7 seasons of Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny, I just thought was some of
Yeah.
the best storytelling out there. They were able to do one-off like Monster of the Week things, and then they were able to do like the big arcs. So I personally think the X-Files set up so many of the other shows that came
Yeah.
after, and no one's been able to replicate that. They tried, they
Yeah.
rebooted one a couple years ago and it just wasn't the same, so
Yeah. And I was gonna do like I was gonna get to a section where I talk about like Seinfeld or Friends, why they were kind of like the big ones from the 90s, like comedy wise, but I'm just like,
Boy
what
Meets
can I
World
say
was
about
fun. I watched that.
yeah,
I watched it when it was on. It was a cute
yeah.
show, you
I
know.
mean, what can I say
Family
about these
Family
shows that haven't been
Matters.
say about yeah, Family Matter, Nick and Night, yo,
Night,
yeah,
baby.
that's
Yeah.
taking me back. Let me see. I don't want to ask like, man, because I know you've been really busy and working on a lot of different stuff, and it's like, what else have you been picking up? It's like any hobbies or anything
Oh
that you kind of, yeah,
yeah, I'll close out the interview with like I am
yeah,
I'm a sword fighter. I do HEMA, historical European martial arts. So long
yeah.
sword, short sword. I love sword fighting. So that's kind of my big side passion. I used to do quite a bit of martial arts. I was doing wushu and Krav Maga for a while, but it was taking its toll on my body. So I had to step away from that. But now sword fighting is what I love to do for fun. So yeah.
So I was also gonna ask real quick, like for you've mentioned that you've coached or
Yes.
you've done a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so for directing, coaching, what have you, like, how does it, what do you really get the most out of, being on the other side of the glass of just coaching
What do
other
I, oh
actors?
man, I love, again, the voiceover community is just so generous and helpful. And it's like, I love being able to help people learn how to navigate this industry and learn how, because it's like I remember the people that helped me when I was still coming up in the industry, and I still consider myself coming up in the industry. It's like Jen Hale for me is like the pinnacle of the industry. But it's like, if I can help someone develop skills that they don't have, and help them on their journey. And the most exciting thing, excuse me, the most exciting thing for me is I coached two people in my military callouts class, and got an email from both of them, on separate instances, saying they just booked a major military video game. And I was so happy for them. So for things like that, it's like, I don't feel like I'm in competition with these people. Like, yeah, I probably auditioned for the same game, but it's like, no, there is room for all of us. And if it's like, if I can pay it forward in any way, because I helped people, I am thankful to people that helped me, you know, um, in this
And they
industry.
definitely owe it to you. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like, and if I can give back, I
totally.
love it. Yeah. So,
So outside of beside, I mean, I know that Jennifer Hale is like definitely top top notch and everything, but who else would you say also helped you along the way that you cite as an inspiration?
oh man, I mean, there's people who are an inspiration is one. I mean, that's a whole other
So pretty much everyone.
ball game. Yeah, anyone's an inspiration. Like Ashley Birch. Like I love the Horizon Zero
Oh
Dawn.
yeah, good old
And
Ashley.
Sissy Jones has done some amazing things, and I'm very happy to call her a colleague now. Um, Laura Bailey, with the Last of Us series, like
Yes.
those the people,
Yeah.
that video game transformed so many things. Yuri Lowenthal, is
I have
another,
his yeah, the
such a
voiceover
hard
voice
worker.
actor. Yeah, I have their
Yeah, and
book.
he had a great podcast for a while, that he hosted several years ago, where he talked to a lot of different voice actors. Yeah, it's just there's so many people out there, and and I have mentors that I continue to coach with, and I've worked jobs with them. So it's like it's kind of when you get to a point where the people who have helped you, now you're working with them, is just it's really it's a
Yeah.
great thing. Yeah. So
Well, yeah, speaking of like referrals for books and podcasts, the voice lessons with Rob Paulson. Also watch his
yeah,
podcast, Talking Tunes.
talking to
Crispin Freeman's podcast is another good one.
Kristen
So
is
many
amazing.
great D. Bradley
Yeah.
Baker's website.
Yep,
Yeah,
D. Bradley
so
Baker. I
many good
love to send
resources.
people to
Yeah,
D. Bradley Baker's website, which is howtobeavoiceactor.com, is
I
literally the
want to be a voice
website.
actor. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, absolutely. Because again, if you got the knowledge, just share it, It's not a
yeah,
secret. Just pass it on. So
and since we are definitely approaching the end of this, what
yeah.
last bit of like advice or just anything, last words that you want to say to my audience? It could be anything
Yeah.
before
I
we
mean,
officially sign off.
I think I covered everything before. Be nice to people. I would say if you are interested in getting into the industry, definitely go to legitimate sources. There's a lot of people out there who claim to be able to get you into voiceover and will make you a demo with no experience. So definitely go to Skills Hub, definitely go to D. Bradley Baker's website, do your research, find those people who are legitimate people in the industry, not just people who want to take your money. And realize it is very competitive and it is a hustle, and you can do it as a hobby. You can do it on the side. But it's just like anything else in entertainment. It requires a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and you're going to be poor for a very long time. But yeah, I mean, for anybody else watching, just if you enjoy a game or if you enjoy a show, like, tweet at the people who are in it. They love to hear feedback about their work, and because so much of social media can be so negative. Like, I'll do that. Like, if I see something, like, I just got into Warrior on Max, and I was like, how did I not know this show existed before? I grew up on Jackie Chan movies, and I just tweeted out, hey, kudos to the stunt and fight team on Warrior. The show is amazing. Like, maybe no one reads it, maybe someone reads it, but it makes me feel better to like recognize other people's accomplishments. So I encourage that.
Right on, man. Right on. So with everything, with all the struggles and all like that we've discussed and talked about, like I know there's been a lot of changes going on in the industry that we'll continue to see as, this year progresses. But all of this is, I mean, at the end of the day, this is why we all love doing this for a living, is to um push boundaries, is to take risks, is to accept who we are and have this really great supportive community. And it's like everything that we go through, it's like if somebody out there is touched by the performances, if somebody is inspired by us, like if we can inspire a new generation of actors or artists or whoever, what you aspire to be, this is why we love doing this and why we're put here just to make a positive change and just be extraordinary. If I'm gonna go by a quote from like what is it, Dead Poet Society from Robert Williams, God be damn, be extraordinary. I can't really say it word for word, but yeah, it's something like that. If that's something that we can go off of, or like the doctor says, space
Yep.
for all, and that's the best closing outro for this. Off the cuff, you know so
Yep.
anyways, thank you for watching, and thank you, Lindsay, for joining me here. This
For
was
having
so much
me.
fun, man. Like,
Great.
I really love doing this with you. Be sure to go to Comic-Con. I won't be there, but if anybody's going, say hi to Lindsay and
Yes,
everybody
check out our
else, all the
panel
act. Yes,
Saturday, 10:30 in the morning in room 29 CD.
definitely make note of that. And with that said, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for next time on Station Square. This is Robert Jackson signing out, and until then, have a good one, folks, and please stay cool. It's really hot. Take care, y'all. See you next time. Peace.